Brody, how's it going, brother? How was the course today? How did it treat you?
It was good. I did not shoot as nice as the weather was, um,
No.
but that's all right. It was good to finally get out and have some good weather and be around some good friends and gotten about 12 holes actually, so it was a good night.
Nice, nice. And so you're getting ready for this weekend too, right? Because you have a retreat coming up with your company. You're gonna be golfing this weekend a little bit too, and
Yeah, so that's separately, but Thursday and
sure.
Friday, our leadership team has a retreat over in Rutgers, Minnesota, which should be fun. And then me and a couple of my other good friends that I also work with, we're going to stop and golf 18 on the way back. So should be fun. It'll be a good leadership retreat, and hopefully good weather presents itself here this weekend as well.
Yeah, yeah. So for the retreat this weekend, what are some of the things that they're probably gonna focus on with you guys as far as the
Yeah,
leadership goes?
yeah. So it's really cool. One of the things that I've loved about my company, and I work obviously, as you know, over at Northwestern Mutual,
Yeah,
I'm in the leadership team, and they really pride themselves on growing leaders first and advisors second. So it'll just be about developing the person, developing each other as leaders, and making sure that we're growing into the best potential possible that each of us have. So it's really fun. We have, I think, 20 to 30 people staying in a cabin separately,
sure.
and we have a couple guest speakers, and it'll be fun just growing friendships and relationships there, and
Yeah.
we'll all be getting better as people.
For sure. What are some of the things that you focus on when you go into kind of an environment like that? What's your focus? What do you want to be able to take away from something like that as far as like networking or,
Hmm.
building skills in what you do? What's kind of your focus on setting the stage going into something like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think first and foremost, just being super present with where my feet are at,
Sure.
and being super open-minded with all the great individuals that will be around. I mean, I'll be around people that are my age. I'll be around people that are 10 years ahead of me and 30 years ahead of me. My
Sure.
managing partner within our Minnesota agency. So to just be around those people that have walked, really footsteps before you have. I
Yeah.
just try to be super present, make sure my energy levels are super high, and just be really intentional with the questions we're asking and what we're trying to do. So again, a lot of it is just um, based around growing leaders. That way, we can only lead ourselves, but
Sure.
also lead others, as it's not an easy business, and
Yeah.
just life isn't easy in general too. So all the skills that we're developing isn't only just related for me to become a better financial advisor for my clients, but
Sure.
also become a better person, so that way I can be the best boyfriend, the best future spouse, the best
Yeah.
whatever comes my way. So it's a full 2 days that we're just super present in.
Yeah. Yeah, that's going to be awesome. So thinking about, kind of the leadership piece there, and I know, obviously as a financial advisor, you're leading people on a daily basis with their
Yeah.
finances, with kind of their decision making. I want to make sure that I'm asking questions in the manner in which I am, which is a novice in most of this financial stuff.
Yeah.
If I'm looking at someone like, our age range, someone that you would work with that maybe wants to start working on their finances and start planning for their future, what are some of the, when you think of the fundamentals that you like to
Mhm.
go over with someone in that age group, to make sure that they start their financial journey on a good footing? What would be some of those things? What are some things like maybe people could start doing today to start building toward that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think first and foremost, what comes to mind is you're never too young to start saving and planning. You don't need to go
Sure.
make six figures before you start saving and planning for your future.
Yeah.
Uh, I think the biggest mistake that I see often with younger professionals just coming out of college is they think that they have time on their side. And they do,
Sure.
but that's exactly the reason why you want to start earlier. The biggest thing that I hear from my clients who are in their heck even 30s, but 40s
Sure.
and 50s is say, hey, I wish I would have started sooner. I wish I would have had this conversation sooner. And what we run into constantly is sometimes it's just too late.
Yeah.
And the folks that need to start saving and building that foundation as we'll go through, they just can't because they have kids in the house, they have daycare that they have to pay for, they have a mortgage, they have auto loans,
Sure.
they have to put food on the table, and they've just created a lifestyle that's neck and neck with their paycheck.
Yeah.
So some of the biggest things that I preach to my clients is, hey, whether it's 5% of your paycheck or 10% of your paycheck, or
Sure.
what we recommend, which is getting to 25 to 30% of your paycheck, that start somewhere, because sooner and smaller is always going to be better than later and larger.
Yeah.
So some of the things that we fundamentally work on with our clients is just making sure that they're understanding their work benefits.
Yeah.
You know, oftentimes we just run into young professionals that just get a 60-page work benefit package slapped on their desk
Sure.
and say, hey, enrollments next month, come back with some signatures and figure out what you're enrolling in.
Yeah.
And they don't understand their 401k, or they don't understand their work benefits and insurance planning and just what's on the table. And what our job is to do is first fundamentally make sure that they're maximizing those benefits. And then I'd say the next biggest thing that I see in here is they think that's it. Now that's a good foundation. That's the starting point. That's a really good foundation that we want to build off of.
Sure.
And that's just where personal and individual planning comes into place.
Yeah. And then for some, I love that too, talking about like making those deposits early instead of larger and later in life, because I actually made a video about that today on my podcast or on my Instagram that I was talking about. There's so many people that I talk about later in their life that just go, man, I really wish I would have just started doing these small things earlier in my life instead of, you know, accumulating 20, 30, 40, 50 years of neglecting making those deposits. But I love that. So building on that, then where do you go from there to kind of continue that forward with what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for every individual that we meet with, it's different, right?
Sure.
The plan that we're building for each individual is different, so it's not cookie cutter. But I'd say first and foremost, it's just figuring out where you're trying to go.
Sure.
And from there, what our job is to do is to essentially come in and provide recommendations and strategies. But if we're just overall talking about, you know, someone who wants to save for retirement, build a good foundation, I'd say first and foremost, in your early 20s, try to put 15 to 20% of your income away towards retirement.
Sure.
Without even running any analysis, I can confidently say, hey, if you're saving 15 to 20% into your 401k, or if that's in your individual retirement account, you're going to be on track to be able to live off your net income kept up with inflation over the next 30 to 40 years and be able to probably step way around sometime between 55 to 65 years old, depending on the lifestyle that you want to create.
Yeah. And so what you would say too, you know, that's kind of something that would be realistic across any kind of group of people, right? Like even if you were starting early and you had, you know, you made less, that's probably something that's more realistic even for those people, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think at the end of the day, you are worth what you save, not what you make.
Sure.
I mean, we've run into the people making, you know, $150,000 to $300,000 a year, and they've created a lifestyle that's $150,000 to $300,000 a year, so they have no room to save.
Yeah.
And you know, going back to my point earlier of just saving what you can start with is going to make the biggest difference the longest way. And what I'd say right now, and getting into a little bit more of the weeds, is just with where young professionals are today and just starting off, you know, their jobs, if we're talking that 20 to 30-year-old range, it's really important to be educated on terminology like pre-tax and post-tax, especially right now with where the economy is today and just historically what tax brackets have done. I mean, right now, historically, we are in lower tax brackets.
Sure.
And the most common recommendations that parents usually give to their kids, and they're not wrong, but say save into your 401k. But a lot of individuals don't know the difference between pre-tax and post-tax.
Sure.
And, you know, for the folks listening out there, I mean, this can be the biggest difference between you being at the whims of the IRS in 30 to 40 years if you're just saving pre-tax, because all that money is going to be taxed as ordinary income. You know, where we can come in and maybe make a couple tweaks to their 401k contributions or set up a Roth individual retirement account, and all that money's tax-free in the future.
Sure.
I'd say right now, especially with tax brackets being historically low, the U.S. is $30+ trillion in debt. If I had a hunch, or if I was a betting man, I'd bet that tax brackets are probably going to go up. I'd also imagine too, like Tyler, your income is probably going to go up over the next 10, 20, 30 years. So what a great way right now to realize some tax on money today and have that grow completely tax-free for the future.
Sure.
So that's a really good foundational starting point, is making sure we understand the differences between pre-tax and post-tax.
Yeah, just where you're going to end up paying that money, or like now or later in kind of that sequence.
Yeah,
absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, and then, a question I had too is kind of thinking about in general terms of like lifestyle. When you're working with people, this is something I think about because I work with clients, and a big thing that you have to work with is always meeting them where they're at and adjusting, helping them adjust their lifestyle. What's kind of some of the ways that when you figure out, okay, they figure out I need to be doing this, this, and this, I haven't done this or this, and my lifestyle set up like X, how do you start to work with them on an individual basis to help them start making some of those, little tweaks, kind of like what we do, right, when you meet with me?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's an awesome comparison. It's truly just making tweaks in a financial plan.
Sure.
And oftentimes, we'll come back with a page to 2 to 3 pages of full recommendations.
Sure.
And I say, hey, look, Rome wasn't built in a day, right? Yep. Rome was built day by day, brick by brick. So we need to come and address the red flags in the financial plan. And we need to come and address and make sure that with whatever we're building off of, again, kind of going back to that foundation, that there's a strong foundation. So it truthfully is just meeting, clients where they're at in your position, right? If you meet someone who has been working out their whole entire life, has a really good grasp on, fitness and education, you could probably push them a little bit harder right away. You could probably have them train them 4 to 6 times a week, have a nutrition plan built out. Or you can meet the person that's never worked out before in their whole entire life.
Sure.
You have to make sure you don't scare them out of the gym, right?
Yeah.
Same thing for me. If I meet someone who's wealthy, has planning in place, maybe runs a business. Sure. We do work with a lot of small business owners. Yeah. We can often come in and just be a little bit more direct. Hey, if we do this, if we make this tweak, this is going to save you a ton of tax in the future. Yeah. Or, hey, this is just going to help you grow your liquid cash better longer term. Sure. And just finding areas of opportunities that were previously unknown. Yeah. And then for some of the clients that have never saved before in their whole entire life, doesn't even know how to spell the word save.
Sure.
So we probably have to just approach this a little bit slower. Yeah. Right. So again, it's 100% hearing your clients where they're at, making sure they feel felt, as this is totally new to them. And money is such an emotional feeling, and everyone has a different background of money growing up. Yeah. So we have to make sure that we understand that, to make sure that we can make the appropriate recommendations in the right fashion, so that way they're setting themselves up better for the future.
Sure. And the thing that I caught right out of that, and that's a great point, but when you were talking about background, what it made me think of was when we were in a call together, I was so blown away, obviously, by the, your knowledge about what you do and how competent you are in what you do. But a big thing that I really connected with you was your background, the reason why you got into financial planning. Would you share a little bit about that with me and the rest of the audience, like how you got into this, kind of your background getting into it? Because I think it's super interesting why you do what you do.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So growing up, the first memory that comes to mind just around finances was not necessarily a good one. I will call myself financially illiterate growing up. And I love my parents to death. I have such a great family. I have a beautiful mom, an awesome dad, great leader, head of the household, and awesome older brother, a beautiful younger sister. And our family was really close growing up. But one of the things I just realized financially, they never planned. And my dad worked a corporate level job. He was in IT. He bought and sold broken computers on eBay. He'd fix them up, sell them, he'd make a profit. So he kind of had a side business going on there, and had a decent lifestyle growing up. And then in 2007, 2008, I think our age group really saw the first bad economy or recession, so to speak.
Sure.
And my dad got laid off and rehired actually at the same corporation 6 months later at a lower position. And this is me obviously now realizing this as I got older. Sure. Obviously, I didn't realize this as an 8, 9, or 10-year-old or however old I was at that point in time.
Yeah.
But every single time our family made more money, our lifestyle increased. And
sure.
Dad made more money, lifestyle increased. And then when lifestyle, when income got cut in half or depleted just because he was at a lower position, you couldn't go and cut lifestyle in half.
Sure.
And that just caused a lot of financial duress in the household growing up. So growing up, I actually did not have a good experience with finances at all. And again, I love my parents. They are my rocks. They are, almost every reason why I'm in the position that I am in today. And they're some of my biggest supporters, but they just verbally argued around finances. They're still happily married. They're awesome. They're best friends. They're great. But I think like most of America,
at that
as
time,
it's a huge problem.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a huge problem in America. They just verbally fought about finances. And I remember sitting there in the living room, hearing my mom and dad arguing about a bill or something. And I just remember thinking, hey, one day I'm going to go to school. I'm going to get a high-paying job, and I'm going to hire somebody to take care of my finances.
Sure.
And I was totally thinking in my mind, I kind of get goosebumps saying this because I can think of it.
Right.
Like, there's got to be a position for that. Like, I don't know what it's called, but there's got to be someone that takes care of your finances.
Yeah.
And then, fast forward, 12 years or so after my junior year of football in college at UWL. I was just coming off a knee surgery. I had no idea what I was going to do. I had a year and a half of school left. I was the person who went to school to play football.
Sure.
And I was like, well, I guess we try to rehab, come back and play some more football.
Yeah.
But thankfully, I met a few new friends at that point in time. And one of them was actually a financial advisor at Northwestern Mutual, and he said, hey, what are you doing for the summer? Yeah. And I said, I don't know, probably working a blue-collar job, rehabbing the knee, trying to get back in football shape. And he goes, dude, you should do the internship at Northwestern Mutual. I said, what? What is that? He goes, it's a financial planning internship. And I was like, dude, you do not want me doing any financial planning for anyone. Like,
keep you away from this.
I was the type of person, man, that went out in college and didn't check my bank account for 3 days because I knew I probably spent, too much money out. Like, there was I didn't have a good grasp on my own, financial life at that point in time. Right? I was just trying to make it through school.
Yeah.
And he goes,
trying to get by.
He goes, trust me, do it. You won't regret it.
Sure.
You'll learn a ton. You'll have so much fun. And just take a hack at it. And it was one of those things, like, we were actually just about to go out while he was talking to me. Right. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it, right? It was just one of those moments, like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And sure enough.
Let's have another drink. Let's get out of here.
Yeah, right.
I'll do it.
Sure enough, he actually reached out to me 2 days later, or he gave me, he gave someone my number to call and recruit me. Yeah. And I have no idea why, because I was probably the person that would have said, like, hey, no thanks, but I was like, sure, I'll go ahead and do it. Yeah. Long story short, man, took the internship and I didn't look back. Yeah. I found out just the impact that I can make on truly any individual, which was so impactful to me. Sure. And I was able to help my parents plan for retirement. Yeah. And I was able to really course correct. Yeah, I was able to course correct some of the bad financial habits that I saw growing up. Sure. My parents are in a better spot for it. And, everyone that I get to meet, my philosophy is just, hey, I want to leave you off better, or, I want to leave you off better than I found you. Sure. And I know this is what I'm going to be doing for the next 30 to 40 years. And, it's my calling and it's my purpose. And just always makes me think about being 8 or 9 years old, sitting in the living room hearing that. So,
Yeah,
yeah, that's
man.
some of my background.
Man, that's so cool. And I just love that because, what I kind of connect with on that too is, when I started my business was, I told my friends, my family, I know this is going to grow. It's kind of like you. I mean, you have so much knowledge in what you do, so much passion for what you do, so much drive. It's going to grow. But I think that's so cool that you're making a priority to take your friends and family with you and make sure they're a part of that journey for you as well too, because you will make your money. I mean, that was very obvious when I talked to you on the phone. I was like, holy shit, man. You never know what you're going to get into, right? Like I'd
Yeah.
always been, we've been buddies and train with me, obviously. But yeah, I was really taken back by that, like how good of a grasp you had on it. So they coached you up well when you went to that internship.
Yeah, they did. They truly did because again, my degree was originally in business administration, and I
Sure.
knew I wanted to do something business. I was just told, hey, go the marketing or business route because it's easier, and you'll be able to get some
Yeah.
sort of job in business, and that's what I did.
Sure.
Um, and again, thankfully, with the advisory development program in the internship, I was able to become a fully licensed financial planner throughout my
Yeah.
time there. And they had
Sure.
covered all of my investment and insurance exams. And by the time
Cool.
I had, graduated and I got done with school, I already had a book of, 40 to 50 clients. And, about a
Yeah.
year and a half into this full time, it's felt like I've been running my practice for 3 years.
Sure.
Um, and we're just growing really fast. And, I pride myself on knowing as much as I can. And here's the thing, man, I'm not going to know every answer, which is
Sure.
awesome. Because I can go and, I can go find that answer. And I know people
Yeah.
that will know that answer. So we really leverage our teams and
Sure.
just again, super blessed and fortunate to be expanding my knowledge and kind
Yeah.
of going from there.
I love that too, because I think about that as like any good professional, is obviously knows a lot about what they do specifically and then a little bit about what everybody else knows, so that you can really put your client in a position to succeed, whether, you're the one to do that particular thing for them or not. I think about my job like that with, having chiropractors or sports
Yeah.
dietitians or things like that I connect with. So that's really cool. Who are some of the people that, when you're working with businesses or individuals where you go, I kind of have this with dietitians. Who are people that are your go-tos to kind of network with and supplement some of the things that you don't typically do? Where are you sending people for that?
Yeah, I think if I'm understanding your question correct, Tyler,
Sure.
in terms of, again, because I think when we recommend something, it can really be with anything with a dollar sign and a decimal point.
Sure.
And in the financial industry, a lot of things overlap in terms from accounting and taxes to
Yeah.
financial planning.
Sure.
And you're totally right. We do have to leverage other networks and other industries,
Yeah.
especially when we're working with small business owners. I'll
Sure.
be able to make indirect advice, and that might overlap with the direct advice that your accountant can actually give you, right? Like, so we can't
Sure.
fill out anyone's taxes, but we
Yep.
can make advice or have education around that. So that
Yeah.
way we're just complementing, other planning in place. So yeah, in terms of, bigger businesses, is making sure they have a good financial team around them, attorneys,
Sure.
CPAs, accountants, financial planning team. And oftentimes it's cool, when you're in front of the right person, you're actually all
Yeah.
you're all meeting together because
Sure.
you might all have advice that overlap with each other. So it's making sure that they have a good team around them that's on the same page, not counteracting advice.
Sure, sure. I love that. And then it like allows you to stay in your scope of practice, so to speak, in your world,
Yeah.
but allow you to
Hmm.
just kind of network and tap in and give your client the best thing. I love that because I
Yeah.
think about that and like in my world, it's like, you know what you know, but you're kind of, it seems like financial, your advisor position kind of is like very similar to mine where like you kind of coach them out to other people if necessary, but you
Yeah.
probably have the largest breadth of knowledge, to start with, right? Obviously.
It, In a funny way of putting it, it is really similar to like health and fitness training, just a different
Sure.
industry on how we take the approach,
Yeah.
right? And just as you kind of referred to earlier, you might know certain education or have advice around, some piece in the health and fitness, but that's not going to
Sure.
be your expertise, right?
Yeah.
Same thing for me. I'm going to have advice and knowledge. I call, our knowledge base is about a mile wide, but
Sure.
only 6 inches deep in terms of a tax perspective, right?
Sure. Sure.
So it's 100% exactly the same way, making sure that we're competent to provide, education, and then referring them out and getting them in front of the right people that can
Yeah.
actually help them execute.
Yeah. So for you, obviously you own, or you're kind of running your own business
Yeah.
within the business, right? What, as far as, I really like to talk to people about goal setting and really like to talk to people about big picture.
Mhm.
For you, when you're looking at, the future of your business and setting goals for yourself, and what is the big picture for you? What does this look like over the next couple of years? What are some of the goals that you set for yourself? What does that look like for you? Because I know in every different industry that's different
Mhm.
in the approach.
Yeah, absolutely. That's an awesome question. So I think when I try to uh, picture and cast this thing out over the next 10, 20, 30 years, I would have hoped to build a pretty big team and practice at that point in time.
Sure.
So right now it's just myself. We're looking to hire a full-time associate by the end of 2022.
Sure.
And you're right. I'm a business owner.
Sure.
I'm technically a 1099 through that perspective, but
Sure.
the team that we build, that'll be completely responsible on me.
Yeah.
And the reason why it's important for me to build the team that I want to do is just so that way we can continue to have an abundance mindset and serve a ton of people.
Yeah.
And I think, again, casting this thing out 10, 20, 30 years, what I think would be absolutely awesome is I want to be the visionary of my business.
Yeah.
I want to be the one who's casting just this incredible vision and future for our
Sure.
team. And I want my teammates to have skin in the game. Like, they're not going to be
Sure.
associates. Like, they're going to be my teammates. And
Yeah.
I want to have other lead advisors alongside with me, essentially running the practice, reviewing, client facing, going out, bringing on new clients. And what I
Sure.
essentially want to do is I want to spend my time then investing back into people.
Sure.
So I would not be where I am today, and trust me, I got a long way to go. I haven't made it.
Sure.
I haven't made it
Sure.
yet.
Sure.
But a big part of the reason why I'm here today is because I had mentors and leaders and coaches
Yeah.
and other financial advisors invest time back into me. And
Sure.
that started with the internship, and that started with peer advisors. And I
Yeah.
want to be able to go out and do that and provide the same opportunity for other people starting their practice. So essentially,
Yeah.
I'll be investing my time back into people, coaching, being a
Sure.
peer, but then also having my team on the side
Sure.
um, that's running a practice. And
Yeah.
what I think is what I'm incredibly grateful for too is this career opportunity.
Sure.
And there is so many people out there that don't know what their next step is, and
Sure.
they don't know if they're in their forever job, and they don't know if they're happy. And what I want to do also is just let people know that there is a career that can provide the future that they're looking for.
Sure.
Well, the three things that people look for in a career, the three I's, are impact,
Yep.
independence, and income. Hey,
Sure.
am I making an impact on other people? Am I making an impact in this world? Do I have control of my schedule?
Sure.
And obviously income,
Yep.
right? So I will have complete control over those three things as I
Sure.
grow this thing over the next 30, 40 years. And I don't want to make this career a secret. So I'm super
Yeah.
passionate about going and introducing people to this career if if the
Sure.
job fit isn't unhappy. So
Yeah.
long term, big term vision, we got a long way to go there before we
Yeah.
have a team of 10 plus at that point in time. And being a visionary in the business, and then also being,
Sure.
hopefully a leader and a mentor to other advisors and people coming into their career. I think that would be the ultimate dream.
Yeah, I think that's really cool because I see that in my space as well, where coaches they're working in gyms and they're just coaching clients, but they eventually get into mentorships and trainer education. You become the coach's coach, and I really I can see that kind of quality in you, where you have that leadership quality. Because there's one thing just to be able to point one person in the right direction. It's another to be able to bring a lot of people together and kind of
Thank
cast
you.
that vision and make it happen. So that's really cool that you say that. It'll be really cool to look back on this, years later as a kind of a time capsule thing, man, because that's why I like to ask people that question, because you're going to look back, right? And I think when you put that out into the world, right, I'm going to do this and this is what it looks like for me. It's very odd how some of those things kind of start to fall into place the way, you
It's
casted them out.
it's unreal how the world just reciprocates what you
Yeah,
put out,
sure.
what you put out into it. And,
I
I'm a
agree.
firm believer, I'm strong in my faith. I'm a firm believer that, God has a plan for each and every single one of us.
Sure.
And, there's a lot of times where I've doubted that plan, and, it's played out just perfectly in
Yeah.
his picture. And, that's why I love, just stepping out of your comfort zone and doing things like this while we're
Yeah.
young. And like you
Sure.
said, I'm a firm believer, looking back in this thing 10, 20 years, it'll be cool to just see,
Yeah.
um, how businesses have grown, how people have grown,
Sure.
at that point in time. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I always think about that with, I just started my business this year, and, I'm about 8 months out, but I'm like, man, we already got some people fit. We already got some people on the right track. It's always
hmm
cool to kind of have that long-term vision of, for me, my long-term vision is having people like you and some of my other buddies I train all in my backyard, all fit, everybody, kind of in
yeah,
where they want to be physically and mentally, emotionally, all these things. And so, yeah, I like to ask that question.
yeah,
Kind
yeah,
of switching back to what we were talking about before, but I was just thinking about this.
yeah.
When you work with younger clients, and I have this big time too, because you work with me, right? Like, that
hmm
I'm very open and receptive and honest with people about like their
hmm
lifestyle habits, right? Like, I don't judge them for them. I know that at certain points of your life, you're going to be
hmm
doing more things more than others.
Yeah.
When you're working with someone that's 20 to 30 years old, and they got one foot in the bar type of thing, you were talking about that,
Yeah.
what do you tell them about, if they were kind of some people that fall into that category, so to speak? How do you have people start to make some lifestyle changes without having them not want to work with you, right? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you
hmm
can't go to the bar now because you need to save money, right? You're going to lose that guy, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. At the end of the day, I want my clients to enjoy our time together over the next 30 to
sure.
40 years. I
Yeah.
don't want our review to look like, hey, Tyler, you need to save every last dollar you have because we're
Yeah.
focused on retirement or whatever it might be, because you're going to hate me over the next 30 years. And, the only time you're going to like me is, hey, you're retired, congrats, go spend your money.
Yeah.
Um, no, like, here's the
Where'd
thing,
time
like,
go?
you're people work damn hard for their money, and at
Sure.
the end of the day, I just want to make sure that they have clarity and peace of mind that
Sure.
they're saving for the things that are important to them, not
Yeah.
to me, to them throughout life,
Yeah.
right? And I believe people are wired in two different types of way. We are all by heart either saver A's or saver B's, I call them. Saver A is the type of person that goes and gets their paycheck, and
Yep.
their fixed expenses come out, like rent, auto loans, student loans, whatever it may be.
Sure.
Then they have a discretionary amount left, and they just go spend whatever out of that, right? And then
Yeah.
come their next paycheck, they might go put away a grand, 2 grand, or they might be living paycheck to paycheck and they have
Sure.
no money left over, because by nature, humans are wired to put job descriptions to money. I'm a
Sure.
firm believer that every single dollar in a financial plan should have a job description.
Sure.
And that saver A, that's really tough. You are
Yeah.
riding a roller coaster. Some months you're not going to do anything. Some weeks you're not going to do anything. You're going to be able to save a lot of money. Other
Yep.
weeks you're going to go on a vacation, have a trip, and you're going to spend all your money. That's
Sure.
saver A.
Hmm.
Where we try to get people to is saver B.
Sure.
And what we do for saver B is when their fixed expenses, when they get their paycheck, fixed expenses come out, we just want a percentage of their income automatically being saved.
Sure.
And that's part of the reason why the 40 and 50-year-olds in the nation, the biggest asset that they have besides their house is their
Sure.
401k.
Yeah.
And it's because it's
Automatic.
automatically taken out of their paycheck before they even can put their hands on to
Yeah.
spend it, right? So
Sure.
we want to replicate that in a financial plan. Hey, how do we make your savings program
Yeah.
feel like a bill, so to speak?
Sure.
And then just over the course of time, we bump up their program and we bump
Sure.
up their savings program. Before you know it, we have clients that have worked with our team for 2 years, and they're saving 25% of their income, and they're not even batting an eye. They're
Sure.
coming back to me and just say, what else do we do?
Yeah.
I don't, and it's super cool to just see the transition
Yeah.
over the course of time, and
The growth.
then
Yeah.
they can go outside, they can go guilty free they can go guilty free
Yeah.
spend their money. If they want to buy a round of shots or for the whole entire
Yeah.
bar, they can go do that because they know they know they're already on track for the house, the
Sure.
retirement, the kids' education, whatever it might be. And that's how you achieve guilty-free spending and have
Yeah.
peace of mind. And
Yeah.
that's how it makes my job fun too, by not saying, "Hey Tyler, you can't go have fun," because
Yeah.
I want you to go have fun. People work hard for the money; they need to enjoy it too. I like to enjoy my money as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that because again, I mean, we just keep seeing parallels between what you do and what I do. That's kind of the way I think about working out and diet and exercise, things like that is like, look, let's just take care of these things up front first. I'm not
Right.
against you going out like, when you talk to me, I would never tell you, hey, don't go enjoy your time out with your girlfriend and spend some time with her and go have a drink with her and go spend some time with your buddies, and go play around a golf, enjoy yourself with your coworkers and things like that. But I
Right.
think when you can get into the mindset of taking care of and checking the boxes you need to check first for your goals, then everything else kind of when you decide to go a little off track, the plan, it doesn't really do much to derail your progress, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
100%. And we always tell our clients, life is crazy and
Sure.
life throws curveballs, and here's the great news, we'll be here for you for the next 30 to 40 years. So as life
Yeah.
changes, your plan is going to change, right? For
Sure.
your clients, as their fitness journey changes, their
Sure.
program changes. And that's why we are a firm believer in planning with clients.
Yeah.
Because if, just pardon my French, but if shit hits the fan, it's
Yeah.
okay, let's plan for that.
Yeah.
And really what I think my job is to do is to be an outcome manager.
Sure.
I just have to be able to manage outcomes with whatever life throws your way to make sure
Sure.
that no matter what happens, you are on track for the things that you said were important to you.
Yeah, I love that too, is you're going back to what they told you. This isn't the
Mm-hmm.
vision you cast for them based on your own, and how I could see too when I talked to you about this stuff, that this wasn't cookie cutter at all. It was just like, look, you told me you value this, you told me your goals are this, then it ought to look something like this. You might make adjustments, you may have different seasons of your life, and
Right.
this may expand or contract to what happens in life. But I
Mm-hmm.
really like your approach with that. That's really cool how you do that.
Yeah, the funny analogy that that we always say is, a financial plan can sometimes become that kitchen drawer. I don't
Yeah.
know if you had that kitchen drawer growing up where there was crayons, towels, deck of cards, nails, random
Yep.
tools, and it was just a mess, right? It was that drawer that just stored everything.
Sure.
Like, here's the thing, and this is why we work with people who are financially literate. It's just because time is people's greatest asset.
Yeah.
And people just want time back in their day where they don't have the ability to be a full-time financial advisor on top of being a
Yeah.
full-time great mom and dad,
Yeah.
or great employee or employer, or whatever it is. And
Sure.
our job is just come in and empty out that kitchen drawer and figure out, hey, what needs to be here, what doesn't need to
Yeah.
be here anymore. Are we missing anything? And really just clean out that kitchen drawer, 1 to 2 times a year, just as
Sure.
life moves crazy fast.
Yeah. Everything has a place. You need these things,
Exactly.
but it's about where you put them. And yeah, I love that, man. So let's talk a little bit about training because obviously, another reason I got you on the podcast, dude. Obviously, thank you so much for sharing all that stuff.
Yeah, my
A gentle
pleasure.
listener, this is how you get free financial advice. You train them and you tell them you're going to give them some exposure on the podcast, and then you write it all down. You go back through it with notes, but.
Yeah,
Brody's been a client of mine. I think it's been about 2 months, three
yeah, two and
months
a half,
now.
2.5.
So one of the big things I wanted to do was get clients on to kind of speak to the process themselves. It's always one thing when I talk about the process and putting it in play and how it works, but it's another to kind of tap into you and go like, how do you plan and prepare? How do you put your fitness and nutrition plans into play, things like that? Let's maybe start with your nutrition. What are some of the things that maybe you were not aware of that you were doing in your lifestyle that you've made adjustments to that you could kind of offer as like a bit of advice to people that may be starting a nutrition journey, just maybe based off some of the things that you've gathered so far?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, one of the things that's been such a good fit in your program is by far the 15-minute coaching calls to just help me tweak some of those nutrition perceptions that I may have had. And I think the biggest takeaway so far is just making sure that you've helped me make sure that I'm getting in my colors
Sure.
and just being mindful of my meals throughout the day.
Yeah.
And some of these things, I had known, but they get thrown back on the back burner just as I'm running a business focused on,
Sure.
being a financial advisor, a great boyfriend, a great son, a great
Yeah.
sibling.
Wearing a lot of
Um,
hats.
yeah, absolutely. And although people say, hey, my fitness journey is the most important thing, I think it's sometimes the easiest thing to get put on the back burner. So what I've loved
Sure.
so far about being a part of your program is just the healthy accountability, I call it, and the education around making sure that I'm consistently eating my meals throughout the day so that way I'm not overeating at night. And
Sure.
it's not necessarily about calorie tracking or calorie counting, but making sure that I'm eating good foods that aren't processed
Sure.
and just making sure that I've had fuel before workouts and so on and so forth. And it's just really been refreshing, just as I think, as you kind of see your body start
Yeah.
to change. On the foot, like on the bad side, as you see your body start to change over the years,
Sure.
even though you might know these things, your first mindset is to go, hey, maybe I should just try to eat less. And then
Yeah.
before you know it, I'm stopping at two fast food places at the end of a 14-hour workday, and
Sure.
now it's just a slippery slope.
Yeah. Yeah. How did you feel like, one of the things I like to tell people is to, when they're planning their exercise programs, to make sure it looks like things they like to do, maybe from the past. A big thing that, you had done obviously as an athlete was play football and train a certain
Yeah.
way. How do you feel like the way you train now kind of feels a little bit like football, and how do you
Mhm.
use kind of channeling that to get yourself back in the workout mindset to get your workouts in consistently, things like that? What do you enjoy about those
Mhm.
things, I guess, too? And
The intentionality,
yeah.
because before, as I was just going through a workout, trying to get a pump, so to speak, or break a
Sure.
sweat, just work out a single muscle group, it was really tough to leave the gym feeling accomplished.
Yeah.
What I loved about training in football, like, hey, I felt accomplished when I left the gym, and
Yeah.
I knew I just worked my ass off.
Sure.
And you've kind of re-brought that back to life in the program that you have built out for me. And it's fun to do explosive, dynamic movements again. And it's fun to feel more like an athlete again.
Sure.
Although I'm out of football, I still want to be a good athlete. I snowboard
Yeah.
in the winter. I still want to be able to play pickup football, shoot some hoops,
Sure.
still go on runs. And if you're not training that way, you put
Yeah.
your body at risk to get injured. So
Sure.
I've just felt so much more healthy, doing basic activities, and I love that it feels like I'm competing and training again, and just the way that your program is set up for me to see what I was doing in the prior workout, where I can
Sure.
compete against myself. and
Yeah.
I'm a competitor. That's one of the things that I
Yep.
love in
Oh
my
yeah.
job, in my life, in football. Like I get to compete, man. And
Yeah.
there's nothing better, I think, than competing against yourself and figuring out how how far you can push the limits.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I very much noticed that not only in our calls, but anytime we implement any nutrition habits, anytime I'm looking at your numbers and kind of seeing how they jump week to week, and yeah, I can definitely see that you're on a path to get where you want to go. So week to week, when you kind of prepare from a mindset perspective, what's your mindset going into a week as far as like, what do you need to do? Kind of what does your mindset going into your week need to be as far as like planning your workouts, making
Hmm.
time for them because you work such, you're so invested in your job. How do you
Yeah.
balance all these different goals you have for yourself, like your professional goals with your physical goals with your one
Hmm.
of the things when you came to me you're talking about it's very important to you, your family is very important to you, your
Hmm.
girlfriend's very important to you. How do you balance all of those things to be able to do good at all of them, which you seem to do,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, well, one is just being super intentional with where my feet are at.
Sure.
When I'm wrapping up the day and I'm leaving the office and, say I have date night with Abby,
Sure.
I want to make sure that my mind is there and not
Yeah.
at work or not on an email or not on something that a client had said or whatever it might be. Um, so where I do well and where I know I do well is like in my business and in my work because that's
Yeah.
super important to me. Where I
Sure.
needed help and what I've done to solve that is making sure that I'm putting my fitness journey first. I'm putting my
Sure.
spiritual and personal development first. So what I did, I went out and got coaches for each of those.
Yeah.
And I'm doubling down this year in 2021. I had a great, first year in the business.
Sure.
Um, but what lacked was intentionality around um, my fitness journey. And at times there probably could have been more present when I was with my family. I get to see my family 4 to 5 times
Sure.
a year. So what I've done, I've gone and got coaches. And I
Yeah.
think one of the best quotes that I ever heard was, "Hey, why do you think the greatest professional athletes in the world hire coaches?"
Yeah.
Well, it's not probably because, like, it's not like, Tiger Woods' coach could beat him in a game of golf.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but it's there to hold them accountable.
Sure.
And when you have people like yourself that I trust in my corner and my life coach that I work with,
Yeah.
it's just a lot. It allowed me to approach the weeks with a ton more, a ton of intentionality,
Yeah.
and just kind of going from there. Just making sure that with something being on the calendar, just do my best to respect the calendar and do it. So if I'm going to be out of the office by 6 o'clock, it's okay. I'm not gonna take a 6 o'clock client meeting.
Sure.
And it's taking a lot of work. I'm not perfect at it,
Yeah.
but that's exactly why.
Yeah.
I've put people in my corner to help me on those things.
Sure. Yeah, it seems like, being able to compartmentalize certain things, when I'm in the gym, I'm training, when I'm
Right.
with my family, I'm there with them. When I'm, when I'm whatever, you're
Yeah.
there. I really like that mindset because I think that's the thing is when you have so many different responsibilities, you wear so many hats, it's so easy to just,
Mhm.
kind of let all that stuff bleed together. And then you get this really watered down thing. And
Right. Right.
I love your approach is like, I'm going to get really good at these things individually so they don't start to mess each other up.
Right. Well, 100%. And I think the biggest thing for me this year has just been vocalizing it.
Sure.
Right. I've vocalized my goals to you, and I've told very, very significant and
Yeah.
uncomfortable goals that I have to my close ones and the people that I
Yeah.
look up to. Because if you have a goal in mind that you just haven't said out loud, I mean, you might as well just forget it.
Yeah.
If you're not willing to share a goal with someone out loud or in writing, it's not going to happen. I
Sure.
mean, I just bet that it's not going to happen. So, as I tell Abby that I want to do certain things in my business or whatever it may be, or my family,
Sure.
or you,
Yeah.
so it's out loud. Like I know I have people counting on me. And here's the
Yeah.
thing: the brain is a really good I think the brain is a really good employer,
Sure.
but a really shitty employee, meaning it's really good at telling you to do the right things, but you don't go do the right things. Um,
Sure.
so I think we just have to structure our environment um, with people around us to make sure we're staying accountable to the things that we want to do.
Yeah, I think that's big. Just like building your team in a way that, you can focus on each thing individually and make sure that, because that's something I talk to clients about. I'm sure that, you experience that with finances, right? When you don't take care of some aspect of your life that's important to you, it starts to creep in and affect other
Mm.
things, right? Like it can affect,
Yeah.
if you're not feeling good about your body, right, that can creep over into, you can be insecure around other people, or you have a hard time being confident in your job
Hmm.
and speaking and what you do. So I mean that makes a lot of sense to me. But
Yeah, I think
um
one of the best quotes I think my life coach had told me. He said, "Make sure your backstage is better than your front stage."
yeah,
And for me, what that means is my front stage is in my business, being in front of
sure,
clients, having impact, independence, income. That's my front stage, right? But if
sure,
I'm not taking care of my backstage, which is my faith, my relationships with my family, my girlfriend,
yeah,
my well-being, if
sure,
that's clutter back there, the
yeah,
backstage will eventually reveal itself on the front stage.
sure,
So as I have people that trust me and work with me, and as I'm growing my practice and doing these things throughout life, like I have to make sure that I'm dialed in on the back end
yeah,
for me to
yeah, that,
stay the best version of myself on the front stage.
sure. So how did you go about getting hiring a life coach, and how was that something that you decided you needed to do to kind of move yourself forward with the goals you have for yourself? And then obviously, it really sounds like to make sure you're continuing to water your relationships and the things that matter in your life. How did you decide to do that, and how has that been going for you? What
Hmm.
does that look like?
Yeah, so I was pretty hesitant at first, actually, because
Sure.
it's definitely an investment into yourself.
Yeah.
And thankfully, I'd actually known someone who was already, in his business as being a life coach and a mentor. And I
Yeah.
actually met him my start of my second year of the internship. I was just in a poor mental spot. I was in a you
Yeah.
know I was in some mud. I felt like I wasn't getting anywhere in my business. School was finishing up. I was trying to figure out who I was as a person.
Yeah.
Like, hey, did I want to grow my business? Like, what was next for me? It was a weird transition phase between leaving college and
Yeah.
going full time, and my friends were moving and so on and so forth. And thankfully, I mean, one of my best friends, Jamie, he had already been working with a life coach at that point in time,
Yeah.
and he said, "Hey, why don't you take my session? I think it could help." And I got to meet my guy Mike O'Connell. Shout out to him.
Yeah.
And gosh, just the connection that we had just through similar backgrounds with athletics, being an athlete, a Christian, and so on and so
Sure.
forth. It was just something that I knew at that point in time, like this was someone that I could go back to. And
Yeah.
as I, finished up a really good first year in my business, again, I still felt like I wasn't getting where I wanted to personally be as a person.
Sure.
For me, like at the end of the day, what my vision is, one day when I'm standing, before God, I think one of my biggest fears is him saying, "Hey, Brody, these are all the attributes and talents that I gave you. This was your full potential.
Sure.
This is where you ended up."
Yeah.
And I actually heard that from someone. I think, Tyler, everything, by the way, that I say is
Yeah.
stolen from someone better than me. Is probably just rephrased in my own words, truth being
You're all
said.
good, man.
Um, and, for me, then it's okay. Like, every single day that's a gift on this earth, am I taking one step forward into the true potential that God has set out for me? And
Yeah.
I cannot do that on my own. I know I can't. So
Sure.
I wanted to go hire a life coach, and I did.
Yeah. Man, that's super cool. we talked about that when we were on the phone the other day, kind of just the whole thing. You're not going to go this route alone type of thing. And
Yeah.
that's so true. That's really cool that, you've been someone, because I know we all do this, right? When we get busy with our life, we can kind of ignore some of those things that we're feeling that are on our mind that we need to take care of. And how do you feel like I always talk to people about like allowing themselves to be vulnerable, and it almost lets them kind of move forward in life. Do you think that was like a thing for you as you grew as a person too? You just started, being more like cognizant of, I need to work on these things so I like to
Yeah.
move forward. So you started just sharing like, this is where I'm at. Okay.
Hmm.
Like I need these things.
Oh gosh, yeah. I think growing up, and a little background, just I think on my
Yeah.
perception around this. Just growing up, my older brother Andrew, he's been my best friend forever,
Yeah.
and just seeing someone ahead of you is just like, man, like, how can I look strong? How can I be mature?
Yeah.
How can I fit in with the older crowd, right? Like with my brother, so I
Sure.
could hang out with him and his friends.
Yeah.
And just naturally throughout life, like whether it was being an athlete or a leader, it was like, okay, I need to be strong no
Yeah.
matter what. Like I can't show any weaknesses.
Yeah.
But like truth be told, man, like that's just not a healthy way of living.
Sure.
And I'll go through ebbs and flows, and I'll catch myself where I'll get really independent, and I won't reach out to people, and
Sure.
that's just not a healthy way of living. And life is a roller coaster, and you got to be able to manage those ebbs and flows. And when you're on the down spiral of things, you got to make sure that you have people in your corner
Yeah.
that can catch that and force that out. So Mike, my life coach, he's very well aware of, like, when my down spirals are, right? And the
Yeah.
people around me in my corner are very well aware when my down spirals are,
Sure.
to make me go out and be vulnerable
Yeah.
and voice what's happening. And truth being told, like, once you start practicing something, it's easier to do. If you can practice
Yeah.
being vulnerable, practice being uncomfortable,
Sure.
you get comfortable doing those things. It's just easier. It's easier to do now. And I don't think twice. And when I do those things, and I just remember, like, hey, I don't have to be the perfect version of Brody. I don't have to
Sure.
be the perfect version of Brody all the time. Like, it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's really cool too, because I think that's everything that makes you be able to grow as a person too. If you're vulnerable, you can be coachable. And that's the thing. If you want to be really good at a bunch of
100%.
different things, you're not going to be as receptive to some of those things, to changing what you need to change, to doing what you need to do. If you can't, if you can't be real with how you feel, be real with the things that you need to do, the things that you need from other people too. I think that's what it sounds like talking to you, is you had things you knew you needed to move forward with your life and put yourself in position to succeed. And so all you've done this year is just do that. Boom, life coach, fitness,
Yeah.
your business, mentors, things like that. And that's really cool, man.
Yeah. Thank you. And it's a long journey. But it's gonna pay off. Everything I think in life is delayed gratification.
Yep.
They say no one ever sees the 30 years behind the overnight success.
Sure.
So I'm
Right.
hoping that's what it's gonna be one day, right? It's, hey, how'd you get to where you're at today? Become an overnight success. Well, you didn't see the 10 years of me
Sure.
going through the
Grinding.
shitstorm and grinding to get there.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, man. You'd be looking at your shoes and you look up and you're up on a stage. You're like, holy smokes. Okay, we're here. That's a
That's
that's
the
a
goal,
that's the
man.
goal. That's the
Yeah.
goal. Well, hey man, I think I can't really see my phone, but I think we're probably somewhere around 45 minutes or an hour on our time. Dude, I want to thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I feel like, you know, as illiterate as I am in many ways with finances, I know that it plays just as much, if not more, definitely more. It's so important for people to be able to listen to people like you talk about finance the way you do, in a way that's kind of digestible to the average person. And so if people wanted to reach out to you, people wanted to work with you, if they listen to this today and they're like, damn, Brody knows his stuff. I really, really connected with his message, really connected with his philosophy. How would they go about getting in contact with you and working with
Yeah, yeah, you bet. Appreciate that, Tyler.
you?
Well,
Yeah.
first and foremost, I'd say No, with today's age, with literally all the financial information being at your fingertips,
Sure.
it is so overwhelming. You have
Yeah.
your parents breathing down your neck, you have your best friend investing in the NFTs and
Yeah.
cryptos, you got your friend running a business, you got Google telling you what's right and what's wrong. Like there's millions of results at your fingertips,
Sure.
which makes financial planning that much harder.
Yeah.
So I'd say go to someone that you trust that is a financial advisor. And uh, if that happens to be me,
Yeah.
or you happen to want to talk to me, I mean, people can reach my website at northwesternmutual.com. It's brody.j.gatz. And you can find me directly on the Northwestern Mutual website, or directly, I mean, my work cell is 608-317-0760, or just reach out to Tyler
Yeah.
and ask to get in touch with me. I think the beauty of the work that I get to do, I mean, at this point in time, everyone that we work with is introduced from someone. So
Sure.
we just want to meet great, trusting people. And if you feel like I can be of value in any way, shape, or form, I'm always glad to at least have an introduction chat and see if we'd even be the right fit to work with you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Brody, man. The reason why I had you on is obviously because, I really connected with your message. And I really think that, anyone that's listening to this, if you're someone that's intentional about your fitness, your physical fitness, you ought to start doing it with your financial fitness. And reach out to Brody because he's the guy. So I want to thank you for coming on today, and I wish you a great night, my friend.
Yeah, man, I had a ton of fun. Appreciate the time, appreciate you, and have a great rest of your night.